Hi everyone, welcome to the community stream number 158. Can you guys tell me if you can hear me well? It's been a bit of a weird setup today to get things running, so I hope that everything is working fine. I see that we have Matt Remar in there. Akira, welcome. Welcome, guys. I can see that you can hear me. That's great. Um, yeah, it's been a bit crazy because what just happened half an hour ago is that the device, not well, this time it's not the device, the software used to basically transfer everything that happens on my iPad to my computer, which is basically Air Server, decided that it was not working with OBS, which is the streaming platform or streaming software we use, and it wouldn't show up no matter what. So I basically spent half an hour going through Reddits and different threads, etc., until I found out what was happening. And it's basically that with an update, apparently that my computer did in the background, it's deactivated my good graphic cards from being used with OBS, which meant that OBS wouldn't show up what this thing was um, supposed to show, because OBS was like, well, if I cannot use the good graphic cards, I cannot display this. So yeah, a bit of a hassle to get all this running again. As always, it always happens like half an hour before the stream. When I checked late yesterday, it was working like a charm. But that's pretty much the beauty of streaming. So anyway, welcome guys. Don't worry, Akira, you'll say that you're a noob. That's okay. First of all, remember that we've all been noobs at one point or another in such a game. And if you think about myself, I am still pretty much a noob in there. As for the gems, since you say that you don't have any, that's pretty much the good news today, is that no matter what happens, you're going to get some. So that's the good news. Okay, I'm just going to make sure that everything is set up. Sorry. And we will be able to start with the easy fight. Just changed ever so slightly the layout for today. No big changes, but a few adaptations. And we'll be able to start. Today we have Anturium, we have DrucktheDuck, Valdarion, DeadReapingHood, Spanky, Monkey Business, Rasan, we have Aniviper.ALT, we have Dream, and yeah, that's pretty much the first 9 players. So we'll start right away. Let's go. Okay, so as usual with the fight nights, I'm mostly explaining this for you, Akira, since that's probably one of the first times you're joining us in this stream. What we usually do is we get the fight night to run, where all of those players are fighting my army, and during that time, I'm sharing some news about the game and also answering to questions that are asked pretty much from the team. Before we start, just because I'm a nerd and that's something you cannot see on your side of the screen, I have a new friend just in there. I don't know if you can see it, but that's uh, that's basically the Sagittarius knight from Senseiya, because what do you want me to say? I'm a kid from the late 80s, early 90s, and obviously I grew up with Senseiya. So being myself a Sagittarius, that's something I always thought I would get. And for those of you that are old enough to have known the super extremely expensive toys of that anime back when they were first released. In France, we were lucky to have them, but I barely know anyone that had any because they were so expensive. like crazily expensive, and they are extremely collectibles now. They're super expensive still today if you want to buy some. But the good news is our kids or youngsters, they can get decent quality toys and figures or action figures of those animes without having to spend the atrocious amount of money that it corresponded to back then. So yeah, just wanted to show that up because I'm proud to have that little guy with me on my on during my daily work in here. Um, so yeah, now that I've done that, let's talk about the game, shall we? So one key element, obviously, to bring up today, because I know a lot of you want to get some updates about that, is the whole cheaters situation in the top of the leaderboard. Again, I would like to clarify some of those things for everyone in there. Um, First of all, it's not any form of data breach or any ultra sophisticated type of hacks. What is happening is simply that the fights are happening on the client side. For those of you that don't know, the client is the app that you have on your device. I'm oversimplifying so that everyone can get what I mean. And it's not happening on the server side, which means you have a server call before the fight happens. That's what dictates who is going to fight against you. And then you have a call when the fight is over, sharing the results so that the leaderboards can be edited, etc. But during the battle, this happens on the client side. The main reason for this is that if it was to happen on the server side, you could have a lot more issues with connectivity, etc. It could have some benefits as well, depending on the setup. But the main problem is that the game was designed this way initially, and it's rather tough to change. Um, but that's basically what happens. So those guys that you see popping up on the top of the leaderboard, etc., they are not having any secret access to the game. They cannot break stuff per se. The only thing they can do is manipulate the fight itself. That's why, for example, they're not having any insane amount of gems or they're not able to cheat any such things. The only thing they can cheat is the fights by manipulating how the client acts during the fight. Um, we are working on solutions for that on two different aspects. The first one, which is the most important one, is to add some more layers so that they cannot do what they do on the client. And that's the biggest chunk. Just for your understanding, this is not something you can do on any device in any single way. Um, Either you need to use jailbroken iOS devices or you need to use um, specific tools that kind of simulate having a jailbroken type of phone. So it's already, to start with, not something you can easily do, but this is also why it's so tough to fully get what they do, because what they're doing is rather changing and duplicating the app itself. So I'm not going to get more technical than that because that's pretty much the most technical I can get with my knowledge of that issue. But I wanted to clarify that because I see people, you know, thinking, oh, maybe they can get free gems or they can get more artifacts than they should. Or no, the only thing they can do is act on the fights and what they actually do to win with super low units and no artifacts is that they freeze all of your units. Pretty much only them can attack. And that's why they still level up their units. Because if they were not leveling up their units, if they were keeping level 10 units, for example, there's a point at which the damage they would deal, even with the fact that they are duplicating attacks so that more attacks happen faster, etc., than they should, there's a point at which they would not be able to kill your entire army within the time of the fight. So they still need to level up their units in order to ensure that they keep this this win rate. And that's also why, since I banned quite a few of those guys, I can confirm it. Um, the vast majority of them still have losses. Their win rate is often 100% because that's based only on the last X amount of fights, but they do not win every single fight. They have losses because sometimes they end up on a player that they don't manage to kill within the time frame that is given. That's the information that I can share so far. The reason why I share this information is just so that you guys keep in mind that, A, if you're ever tempted about using anything like this, you will have a few hours of fun, but your account will be gone. So ultimately, it's not beneficial. Second thing is keep you informed that we are working on those issues, as I was saying, in two different ways. The main way that we act on this is that we are fighting what they are doing initially at the base, at the core. And this is what takes a bit more time because this is a lot harder to fully change. And it's a race because, in a way, those kind of things can always be uh, worked around if you put enough effort into it. Most of the time, these kind of acts are done by people that don't want to put a super high effort into these kind of things. But that's one thing. The other aspect that we're working on is a better reporting system because it is important that players know that when they report a player to us, that it's getting banned super fast. So this is something we are currently working on. How long it will take before we have a full solution to the problem, I cannot say yet. But I know that it's not going to take too long for us to have a better reporting system. What I mean by a better reporting system is a way already on our side internally to flag those accounts. There's a rather easy way to do that. I'm not going to give you the details because in case those guys are checking the streams, I don't really want to give out how we are going to do it. But there are a few different really easy to use indicators that would allow us to spot those accounts rather quickly. So the idea is that we would have those triggers, and if you meet several of those triggers, your account will be banned. In case there would ever be a false positive, which in these cases seems very hard to believe, but if it could happen, then basically a player could reach out to support and get their accounts unbanned. But given the scenarios we're talking about, I don't really see how it would be possible to have a false positive there. So that's one thing. And the other aspect is to make sure that we then grant you guys a better way to report players. A simple way that I'm going to start using already this week will be a Discord tag. So there will be a bot on Discord that whenever you are reporting a player and tagging this account, there will be a notification for me, and I will share that internally with the game team and the support team, etc. So that there's ideally really quickly someone that can act on those accounts. That's one thing we're also going to do. And this one, we can start doing it this week. I won't say tomorrow or even Friday because I still need to finish configuring it and it might get a tiny bit more time. But the idea is that we get that going very, very fast. So, yeah, that's basically the topic that I wanted to cover and what I can tell you in general about that aspect of the game. We have about 3 or 4 players more to go in this section. If yeah, we are Jensen, so yeah, it's 4 players. We'll move to the next one right after that. Sorry, guys. As always with those streams, there's a point at which I need to take a break and drink a little if I don't want to die by the end of the stream and be entirely dry. You know. Okay, so I'm just gonna wait for this fight to finish, and yeah, we gotta stay hydrated. That's for sure. So as soon as the fight is over, we still have 1 player after Dex Skull, and then we'll be able to move to the other fight night, and the other section of the fight night will pretty much allow us to start talking about other topics, etc. I know some of you will probably be watching that in replay. A lot of you, actually. If you have questions about the whole cheating situation, etc., do not hesitate to come and ask in Discord or in the next community stream if there's anything that is still unclear by then. Always feel free to ask questions about that. Ultimately, this is something that happens in every game at one point or another. Um, and most importantly, what matters is that we are banning those guys, right? It's not like they get away with anything here. Um, but obviously, that's not ideal. The ideal is that we get those guys banned automatically way earlier than that. And the other aspect is that we get you guys to feel safer in general about the game and the your progression towards the league system. So those are the key things for us, and I will keep you updated as soon as we have some news about that. For the time being, let's move to the other profile and start the second category of the fight night. Gonna grant the reward for this one. The rewards, there we go. So for this section of the fight nights, we will be starting with Juice. We have Aniviper. We have Foreign, Nappy, Breather, Tretor, Veringer. We have Heavy Style, FedEx, Scissop, Deathly Allows, J1234, J1234, Gustin, Admiral, King, Elric, Shiver, Zoyos, Nubimus Prime, Nicholas, and Chaos 4. That's for the first 20 players or so. Let's get going. Yeah, there we go. The background, the battlefield that Juice is using here is still by far my favorite of the game. I'm not really much into the church, etc. aspect, but I really love the fact that they mixed this with some form of Lovecraftian design with those statues that have that kind of Cthulhu look to it. But most importantly, it reminded me of the designs of one of my favorite games, but also one that frustrated me so much a few years ago, and it's Teslagrad. I also saw that they released the Teslagrad 2, but it's apparently extremely bad, so I never tried it. But Teslagrad was a game I really, really enjoyed, and this battlefield really reminds me of this design. So yeah, that's it's fairly cool. Okay, yeah, glad to see Matt Remard, and I'm not the only one liking this one a lot. I think it makes sense, right? It's one that I would expect a lot of people to feel like it's a bit classy, and also at the same time, um, one thing I do like with it as well is that super readable. The one that Aniviper is using right now, for example, it gives me vibes of Paprika, because there's like this, there was those Japanese style koi carps designs, but at the same time, it's also super busy, right? There's a lot of things happening. That gave me this paprika uh, design. For those of you that don't know the movie Paprika, it's based on a manga, and it's pretty much, well, I wouldn't say it's the Matrix before the Matrix, because it's not exactly this, but it's extremely close to the concept of the Matrix, in a different setup. And yeah, it's definitely something I would advise you to watch. Um, Maybe just make sure that you are not too tired before going into it, because it's quite dense and quite busy. But yeah, I like it as well. The thing is, I tend to like the battlefields when they are super readable, as I was saying, because I like to be able to understand what are the units that are there, regardless of the skins that are used, etc. And it's not that easy to make a battlefield that is interesting and catchy, etc., but still readable on the battlefield itself. And I think this one managed to do something quite cool for that. Okay, so then we can probably move to the next topics of what is coming up for the game. So we are now extremely close to the release of the GRB final, or fully fleshed version, let's say. It is planned right now for, let me check the date. It's planned for the 21st of October. Not going to promise that it will be the 21st, because there's, in the final tests, final sessions, there might still be some changes, but that's what we are looking at the moment. I won't necessarily tell you guys again everything in details, but as a reminder, for this new version, you have a brand new boss with new abilities. You will have clan leaderboards. We fixed the issues with the display of the leaderboards. You have a new currency dedicated to this event. The leaderboards will be extended, so they won't be granting rewards just for the top 100. The rewards are better communicated. So now basically you will see the rewards that you get no matter what. And those rewards can only be doubled if you are, well, some of the rewards can be doubled if collectively we defeat the boss. There will also be a better explanation for the leveling up of the boss, which was something pretty dark so far. I think no one really was able to level up their bosses up until now. So that's also going to be making a difference, because with the leveling of your boss, global red boss, you're also leveling up the rewards you can get. So those are the main things. Maybe did I forget any? Well, the rest are small things, like the UI will show, for example, which one is which clan is currently leading the leaderboard. So in the window for the event, you will always see that. Um, Madram, are you asking if the Chimera is going to replace Weaker? Not yet, because we probably want to have at least one other design for the global red boss, so that we can then alternate those two, at least before we get Chimera to replace Weaker. But also because Weaker is about to be fixed finally. So potentially that would also be uh, old story. Ideally, that's the hope, that we can finally get that part sorted. Um, Other than that, the next big things that are being worked on, as most of you know, after the global red boss, the next big thing will be the artifact rework. And after the artifact rework, which is not going to be super complicated in itself, yeah, ideally the Frost Blazer will not be able to one-shot weaker anymore. That's the idea. I'm not going to promise anything because it's been a few times that some internal tests said, "Oh, by changing this data, it should be enough," and it was not. So we still need to make sure it's not the case. But so far, that's what I was told. So yeah, ideally that should be finally sorted. Also, one of the positive sides of um, the new currency being there for the global red boss is that people will be able to focus on the red bosses the way they should, and they will also have a reason to go and spend their keys, well, the new type of keys for the global red boss no matter what, because anyway they only have things to gain out of this, right? They have this currency to use no matter what, because it will be a similar system where you have a few that are regenerating no matter what. So it's better to use them than to let them go to waste in a way. So that's also one of the benefits of having the different currencies there. And so, yeah, as I was saying, the next thing will be the artifact rework, as we already discussed. The artifact rework, the idea globally is to keep the strength of the highest artifacts right now, but redistribute it over more levels and put everyone back a few levels, which means everyone will keep their advantage compared to others, but you will have to focus again on grinding the game to get those new levels of artifacts. And most likely, it will also require new currency on top, so that basically it's going to be a long grind before you get to that new max of artifacts, which should also make the power stones more relevant than they were before, etc. So there are quite a few things that will come with the artifacts rework. One of the stuffs I did not mention, which are also coming very soon, you will have the new elixirs. So new elixirs will be pretty much just stronger elixirs than the currently existing ones, and you will be able to win some of them in events or to purchase some of them. Pretty much the similar kind of thing that happens with the current elixirs, but a bit stronger. And you will also be able to. Um, I lost what I was going to say. Okay, I lost what I was going to say, so I'm going to answer to your question in the meantime, Matrima. Will the second phase of artifact enhancement be able to achieve currently with the old leveling system? Or do you have to complete the first before you can do the second? Um, both, from what I understand of your question. The way it would work is pretty much you take the 5 existing levels. Now the value that was the top of the level 5 will now be the top value for the level 10. Roughly, it will be slightly bigger for some artifacts that were a bit too weak, slightly lower for some artifacts that were too strong. But players will remain at the level that they had. So that means if you used to be at level 5, you will still be at level 5, but now you have 5 levels more to go. And since you're at level 5, you would probably need the new currency from level 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. A player that would move back to level 4 will not need the new currency until they're at level 5. And then from level 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they would need the new currency. So it's kind of a bit of both. If you're already done with the current progression for artifacts, you will likely just need to focus on the new layer. If you were not quite there yet, we are not going to make it way too hard for you to catch up, but you will then also have the entire grind to go. And the goal with this new distribution overall is that it means as well that you will more often, you will progress faster from level 1 to 5 than you used to. You will progress rather slowly from level 5 to 10, but in any case, the impact of each levels will be slightly less drastic as well. So it will be a long grind. It will be something people have to spend quite some time on to get to level 6 or level 7 or level 8 or level 9 or level 10. They will get better, bigger, stronger as they do, like you currently do. But imagine that in the past, moving from level 4 to level 5 had a drastic impact. Now, moving from level 5 to level 6 is going to be a way smaller gap. It will still be significant, but a way smaller gap, which means artifacts in general could not be as strong as they used to. Will all the excess artifact shards for 1 to 5 be useless then? No. So there are two ways that we will either address that. One of them is with the merchant, as you were mentioning. So the merchant system, for those that don't know, is a system that will come after the artifacts rework is done and will allow to swap and exchange resources. You will get specific offers shared to you, and you can basically validate those if you feel like one is interesting for you. So that will be one way. But the other thing is that, from what I understand, leveling up to level 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 might still require the shards. The only thing is that it will require from you shards, you need the fragments, and a new currency as well that will be used only to kind of validate the levels in one way or another. And the goal of this new currency is that, yes, we need you guys to use your shards, but a lot of players have packed up so many shards that if we were not adding something else that you need to spend sometimes getting, you would basically just move back to level 10 right away, and that would make the entire change useless. So the idea is, yes, you will need those, but probably not in super high quantity. And you will need this new currency that will likely be something that you mostly get from events, almost exclusively. I'm not going to say exclusively because maybe there will be special deals from time to time or stuff like that, but the vast majority of it should come from events. That's the point. So that would be the way it's going to look. And yeah, one thing I wanted. So I remember now what I wanted to say. The the one thing that will come very soon that I didn't bring up before is that we are fixing the power boost. So power boosts will work when you're spinning and when you're being attacked. And that means potentially they will be slightly less strong than they currently are. That's something we'll adapt. Most likely, I would expect that there will be a season or two where we'll need your help and your feedback to fine tune it. But that's something that is getting solved rather quickly. So this should be working properly. And we are also developing at the moment the interface that will show you the power boost that your opponent has. So that will come as well. So the fix is going to come really soon. I'm not sure if it's going to be directly for the next season or for the one after that, but that's pretty much the idea. The small UI change that displays that your opponent has the power boost, this one will probably come one season after that or something like this. That's roughly what we can look at for this issue. And yeah, as I said, we'll need probably to get your help to identify how things are going. Something else that is coming very soon is new journey levels because we will be having the second season start. And at the moment, the plan is that with every second season, we'll have journey levels. And on the long run, that should be every second and fourth season. The reason why we do it at the second season, quite honestly, initially we wanted to have it on the first season, but the problem is that there's so much going on the live ops side when we release a new era that adding this on top for the first season is an additional risk when on the second season usually there's not much happening. We don't have units released, we don't have stuff like that, so having a different having the journey levels being added at this point will make the second season a bit more exciting as well. And on the longer run, if we are able to deliver 5 new levels every other season, then that would be second and fourth, or even maybe second and third, because the third season is not the one that brings the most content either. But that's what we're currently looking at. Also, since we were talking about that the other day, we are still looking at the moment into what you guys brought up regarding eras and units. So regarding eras, there was a discussion the other time about potentially having shortened eras from time to time or these kind of things. At the moment, it's not sure if we are going to go that way. But one thing we want to try out with you guys on the longer run will be to have eras that will have more drastic balance changes. So the idea would be that a specific era would come with either some units fully unavailable. The idea being that there will be so many units at one point that we kind of need to shorten a bit the amount of units that you can pick from. And the idea would be, hey, I don't know, first season there's maybe only 40 units available from the Roadster. Second season we have more, third season more, and fourth season all of them are available, or something like this. And every era, the list of units would change. Some of them would pretty much always be there because they're kind of like flagship units. But the idea would be that by doing something like this, we could make the eras more relevant in terms of um, the units that are there. You know, if you have a plague era, obviously all the plague units would be there no matter what from the get-go, and some others might come later on, etc. Um, it would allow us to have more, um, yeah, to have basically eras that are more relevant for the era. But the other thing as well is that it would allow us to keep bringing slightly altered version of existing units for a specific era if they make sense, etc. Like, hey, there's this unit that is only available as a mythic unit. Well, in this era, we will have a similar unit that comes out as a common unit, but will be, of course, less powerful, etc. So that would give us more um, freedom to try things out, especially when at one point, anyway, there's just too many units. Yeah, Matt you're saying that maybe we should do a trial run of that for one season and then go back to normal setup. I mean, yeah, in any case, it's not going to be something where we go like, hey, you know what? That's it, no more units for an entire era. What I would suspect for it to happen is to um, use the Twisted Curse event for that. And so, final week of an era, we take out some units that are disabled from the game for 1 week, and we see what's the reaction if players are interested, etc. And then we can go with this. The alternative version of that we can think of is to not really block unit accesses, but to focus more on the balancing. So have stronger balance changes that would be era based. Um, but the problem there is that it takes a lot of tweaking. And so if we were to go that way, the idea would be more like, hey, it's a plague era, all the plague units get that bonus for the entire era. And with each season, that bonus is ever so slightly bumped, for example. And maybe for the 2 last seasons, we say, hey, you know what is a good counter for the plague units? That's this. So those ones are getting a small bump as well. That could be an easier way for us to do this way indeed. If we are going to go with banning units, era based or season based, would artifacts be cutting on the table as well? Yes, we could technically do that. It's kind of an extended version of this. The reason so far why we didn't want to do that is because at the moment artifacts are just too strong. They are such the epitome of everything in this game. It's just the one thing that makes so much of a difference that right now, if we were to ban some of the artifacts, either we would ban those that are very useless and no one would care, or if we ban any of the ones that are super strong, it would be a nightmare. For me, at least on the CM side, it would be a nightmare. Tons of guys would be getting mad about this, even if it was just for a very limited amount of time. When we already lowered the, when we tried to work on artifacts, it was already this way. If with the artifacts reworks that we want to do, if it goes well, if everyone kind of agrees the dynamic, if people realize that, hey, it's actually more fun when power stones and unit choices and strategy gets a tiny bit more importance the um, over the artifact, then indeed it would be great for us to try it out. And you're right that maybe trying to nerf or ban artifacts could be an easier way to start than with the units. It's also slightly less balancing. The other good side of this is that it would allow us to release new artifacts. Because one of the things right now with artifacts that prevents us from adding more artifacts is that a lot of them are so strong that no matter what you add, they're not going to be that welcomed. Like I see suggestions from players saying, hey, I would like an artifact that does this or that. And most of the time they're cool. But in all honesty, the vast majority of players would not pick them against some of the strongest ones. So maybe a system like this could help indeed. You should consider doing a micro era with no artifacts from time to time. Um, yeah, so a no artifacts event in general, that's something we're looking at. Not necessarily a micro era, because so what I was saying earlier is that we were discussing this, and one of the issues we found out with the micro era is that there's so much we need to change from one era to the other that pretty much the 2 weeks time would be entirely focused on making sure everything is properly done for the next era, which means for those 2 weeks, we basically stop the development, we stop everything else we are doing just to make sure we can get everything properly deployed in time for the next era. That's why we were at one point considering like an era that would be halved, so like 1 month, and that would work. But a 2 weeks one would be complicated on that end. And at the same time, if we were to go 1 month, then 1 month with no artifacts at all could be a bit too long for us on the game side, because the thing as well as the artifacts is one of the thing that well, first of all, generates quite some revenue for the early players, but or well, not the early players, but players that start to really feel like they want to invest in the game and get going. But also, um, the other thing is that it does drive the game in general because it became such an important part. But having an event in general where artifacts are not working, uh, that that is something we're looking at. I don't know how long that would be. Maybe that could be an event that is just, the final weekend of a final season of an era or something like this. You could imagine like, hey, sometimes we have the Twisted Curse event, and then the next era, the final week of a era, is an era with no artifacts at all, a season, and maybe not even a season, just a week. So there are ways we can think about it. The other way that is thought about would be to have a different game mode. So a game mode that would be momentary one, like an actual challenge event. And this challenge event would be solely, no um, no artifacts in this event. That's something we could think of, because then that would be a different system. What we could look at in this case is like, hey, this event is actually no artifacts, limited pool of power stones, like only a few that we selected, and you cannot buy the power stones. You gain the power stones for that challenge as you progress through that challenge. So you need to prove your value on the strategic layer, and the more you advance, since you're going to meet players that are stronger, you also get more and more power stones. They get more power stones as well, until the final point where you have a lot of them or something like this. This kind of challenge idea is something we're looking at, because that could be a way to make events that are really player against player. But also because if that works, um, that's also a way to have a first kind of clan war systems, because you can then have this event running and have an actual clan leaderboards based on the performance of all your clan mates in the event themselves. But also because if we were to get that to work, the mechanism itself could be used for more clan war system. So yeah, if we are able to go in that challenge direction, that would open the possibilities for a lot of different things, including, as I said, the the actual fight night, but also other things potentially, like individual events from time to time, etc. And yeah, that's something we're definitely looking into, because that would be pretty much the direction we want to go with. But yeah, for that we're definitely looking at next year, um, and yeah, most likely also that's something I already mentioned, but early next year we'll start to have um, stuffs like more stats in the game, etc. I didn't give too much details about that, but long story short, this is to attract certain categories of players that we want to attract to the game, and we need to kind of match the standards of specific markets, specific demographics, etc., where the game has a huge potential. And some of them make it that if we were showing more stats, it would get more players in. So that's something that is kind of a win-win. It's a win for the old players that have been asking for being able to see more stats and such for a long time, and it's a win for us because we have proven records that it would help with players adopting the game a bit earlier as well. So yeah, that's one of the things that will be worked on as well. Also, Matt Remar, since you were the one that brought that up pretty much every time we have this community stream, we have changed finally the inactivity periods before you get out of the matchmaking. We've made this change earlier this season, and it's moved from 12 months to 9. We will be moving forward to 6 months rather soon, and if nothing bad happens, it might go to 3 months, or maybe 4, or we'll see what fits best. But that's the plan at the moment. So within a few seasons, that's something you should see the effects on. And starting with the next season, if it's still according to plan, we should have the fix that will also prevent dropping in the leagues by basically being attacked. So the idea is, yes, you can drop to a certain point to the threshold that we put in place some, well, 2 years ago, I think now. But right now, some players found out that, hey, once I reach a threshold, I can just wait until someone attacks me. That puts me below the threshold, and then I can manually drop again, leading to people basically just bypassing the threshold altogether. This part is being fixed at the moment, so it's going to be sorted very soon, which should between those different changes and hopefully as well having less cheaters in the game, that should get people to collect more trophies and populate the higher leagues more and more. The more people populate the higher leagues, the more we'll be able to also grant better rewards for those leagues. So it's kind of a system where we all have to go in that direction if we want things to work out great. Okay, guys, those are the main things I'm thinking about. I'm trying to see if there's any big topic that I missed, but I don't think of any right now that I really missed on for the things that are coming rather soon. Let me see. Yeah, well, we are entering this period of the year where you should be expecting to see pretty much good things coming up for Halloween, good things coming up after that for the Black Friday and for Thanksgiving, and then the Christmas, New Year's kind of celebration. So uh, this is going to be packed with these kind of things quite soon. Um, but one thing I can tell you is that we are moving forward with some changes that were quite needed to Spellwagon, the website. So it's slowly getting in the good direction. The next step should be something that will actually benefit to absolutely all the players, uh, regardless of if you want to make purchases on Spellwagon or not. So yeah, we will be moving in the good direction with that. And as I was saying, for Halloween, for Black Friday, for Thanksgiving, and then later on for Christmas, etc., there will be nice things coming up. Um, I do not know yet what will be the exact content there, or rather, I don't want to disclose anything because it's not final. But there will be great stuffs coming in, especially for Halloween. There are always nice skins and cosmetics coming in, and yeah, for the other ceremonies, festivities. That's the word I was looking for, not ceremonies, festivities. There will be some interesting content as well. The one content I'm the most looking forward to will be a skin that is supposed to come for Thanksgiving. And this one should be quite cool. Uh, and the community in particular should be extremely happy about this one. So we'll see what will be the feedback on that one. Turkey Phoenix, well, let's say half of your answer is in pointing to the good direction, but probably not the Phoenix. But yeah, it's something in that direction that will come. And I'm not gonna promise it yet because I'm still waiting to get the 100% validation about this. But yeah, that should be a fun one, and I cannot wait to see the validations there. the validations. Why am I saying validations? The the reactions. Sorry. So that's yeah. Okay, guys. So now we enter the part of the stream. Well, first of all, we enter the part of the stream when there's a giant mantis on the screen, which I don't really like. But outside of that, yeah, if you have questions, anything you want to ask, now is the time. We still have quite a few players to go. The fights are not extremely fast today. We we have more than 40 players to go, so we have some time. But yeah, you can tell us if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to discuss. We are up for that. By the way, I didn't see that many reactions about the Void Dragon. Um, what's your feedback on that, guys? Did you appreciate it? Because the team worked for quite a while on this one, on bringing that up because they wanted to bring a dragon for a little while. But yeah, I didn't see too much about it. What's the consensus here? Okay, does that mean that there's no consensus? No one has any idea. Okay, Matreba, you're saying that you haven't figured out a good way to utilize it yet, but you haven't spent much time experimenting. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Um, Yeah, I mean, on my side, I'm mostly happy on how it looks like, but I didn't have either the opportunity to play too much with it yet. Yeah, maybe I'll try to see if we can build up something with that for the next stream, at least for the easy and medium fight. I remember I used to have an entirely dragon army for a while for the super easy fights, and yeah, that's something we could think of. Also, I saw that actually I got some feedback from the team about future changes on the balancing side. So yeah, we'll look at this, but pretty much they were bringing up that um, they want to ever so slightly change the Death Knights because, as you know, we nerfed Death Knights quite strongly with the respawn skeleton change, and the idea is to potentially bring it a bit higher again. It used to be 100%, went to 75. So the team is looking into, potentially bringing it to 85 or 90% back, so that there's still a nerf compared to what they used to be, but something not as strong as what we currently see. So that's one thing. We can get your feedback there. And I was gonna go to the Endless March as well. For the Endless March, the idea is to bring the damage resistance to 70% and bring the HP a bit higher as well. So those are some of the stuffs that are precisely looked into and would then most likely be applied to the next era, because that's usually the delay we have. We have 2 to 3 seasons of advance. So that would be for the beginning of the next era that we would slightly rebuff the DK and the Endless March. Also, you were saying, Matrimar, about the dragon that it will require some support, Valkyrie perhaps. Yeah, needs to live longer to get up into the melee and convert things with its melee attacks. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, who am I to say anyway that it wouldn't make sense? Because my strategy skills on that are pretty far away um, from what a lot of the top players of this game have. But yeah, it's at least to my ears, it makes sense. And by the way, if you have other requests for balancing changes and such, do not hesitate to keep sharing them with us. I think you've seen that for a little while that um, we try to implement most, if not all, the balancing changes that the community requests when they make sense. Um, have you considered doing a seasonal buff for attack speed and or run speed? Um, in this case, that do you mean like a seasonal buff for absolutely everyone, or do you mean it more like as a power boost, like people that have unlocked it would get an attack speed buff boost? More as a power boost. That's something I would need to check with the team. I think it's shouldn't be too hard to do. I know that at the moment they want first to get the issue with the power boost sorted and to have the balancing done for the existing one before they extend to more. But those two seem like stuffs we could potentially do. I see especially the attack speed being one that makes a lot of sense because the run speed, the only thing is that it might be something that is only really useful to specific builds. So it might be a lot less appealing to something more generic, like when you have a melee or a distance or a defense boost. It's something that kind of most will benefit from. Not everyone, but most. The attack speed, I would say most people would still benefit from it. The run speed, maybe, maybe. Teleport immunity is a power boost I would invest resource into. Displacer is so annoying. The displacer will be nerfed a little. That's guaranteed. I don't remember if it's with the next season or the one after that, but it will be slightly nerfed again. And then, I mean, a teleport immunity, I would say it could make sense for the power boost, but the main problem, as far as I understand, for power boost with um, immunities in general, not just for teleport, but immunities in general, is that then you need to recalculate the original immunity of every single unit, which ends up being a lot more calculation than for base values like speed, attack, melee attack, uh, distance, um, ranged attack, etc. Those are a lot more easier to manipulate, but it could be looked into. It could be linked into. I would say you could even have a power boost that is just increasing immunities in general for you know all of your units, but that one would be extremely powerful. So probably way too much, even if it was 5% or whatever. It might be way too much. Okay, so Benuzet, the French time. We still have, okay, we have about 30 accounts to go. Guys, so we still have quite some time for questions and anything like this. Guys want. I'm also trying to think if there's any way, any skin you could apply to the displacer that would be funny. That's one thing I was thinking about. Have you considered doing a first time spinners event? Um, so it depends in one way, what way you're thinking about it. So if you're thinking about an event where basically it's only brand new accounts, like new players that can join this as a fight night and fight a very low profile army and get things going. Um, that's something we could do. The problem for such an event is that if we do just that and advertise it in game, advertise it everywhere to get it going, we would need to do it instead of an actual fight night. And I'm fine with that, but that means the players have to also agree to the fact that, hey, maybe this week we're not going to get the gems we want to get. And it's one of the things I've always faced uh, before with this community is that sadly the fight nights are a bit taken for granted on the reward side, and that makes it a bit hard sometimes to try other things. Oh, an event like, okay, so it's a race to see who could get the highest in a defined period of time. Um, I mean, we could do that. I would need to check how it was running in general, but we could do something like this. The the thing is, we have to see how we can make it a bit entertaining because the main problem at this point is that most of the players, like if we go for 2 weeks, most of the top players, they kind of know how to get to the leagues or at least rank 16 in 2 weeks at this point, right? Yeah, but that's the problem at Remar with the Fight Nights promos is the reason why I don't communicate too much about the Fight Nights is because we cannot get more people. If we get more people, everyone has to accept they won't get rewards every time. That's the entire issue we had when I first joined, is that we had fight nights every week, and a lot of players were just there every week getting rewards and not even watching. And the problem is, if we get more people to participate, but they come to the chat, they do stuffs, I'm all fine with it. If we get more people to register, but not more people to watch, it kind of hurts the game ultimately. Because it's okay when it happens from time to time. When you do it as kind of an event, it's once a month or whatever, or it's just not planned period, then people don't know when and if they're going to be picked up to get something. So it's all good. But as soon as people know if they're going to get picked up, how they can get picked up, how often, then they develop this feeling that the company owes them to get this. And it's ending to it turns into something very counterproductive. My problem here is I would love to move to a system where the fight nights are a bit more of an event where I can share a lot more about the game because we do it less often and there's more news to share and I can prepare them better with more videos, more in-game elements of what's coming up. But if we do that, because we know that if we keep the event running for 3 hours, it won't work, we would also need to reduce the number of people that get rewards. And that's the problem we get, is that people want us to try different concepts. Uh, they also want me to put more previews and all of that, but they also want more rewards, or the rewards that they often get. When we first moved the fight nights from weekly to every 2 weeks, I had some players that were writing to me to complain about that for months because it became something that they expected to get. And back then, I did the calculation that some players were receiving the equivalent of 20 euros per month for 2 years in terms of free rewards. And of course, it doesn't mean those guys would have spent 20 euros on the game every month uh, just because they are getting stuff. And to some extent, a lot of people also spent because they were getting free stuffs, and so they feel more um, um, pushed to encourage the developers, etc. Oh, that's true. But when you have a core of players that are getting all of that for free for such a long period of time, it becomes something they just expect and they won't really accept that it's not there. We could try, and I mean, there will be a point more likely, more than likely, when it won't be even possible for me to have the fight nights run every 2 weeks, and we'll have to make it happen more as an event. And I would be fine with that if it gets more people to participate, if we can promote it a lot more. But everyone has to come to terms with the fact that if we go to this, that means also you might get less rewards. You might get the same amount of reward in each event, or even maybe a bit more. And you might have more people in that event that get rewards than usual, but not everyone, and not as often. So that's definitely something we have to consider. It's kind of a privilege that is hard to work with. One thing that I was thinking about at one point was to have a fight night where people cannot pre-register. That would mean you need to show up in the event, share your player profile. We spend like the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes talking about the game, and the people that show up or that send their teammates to show up and share their player IDs or whatever gets in there. And the problem is, if we do that, it's a bit unfair for those that cannot join. So you would need to do it at different times, to change it from time to time so that different people can get in. But at least you would be sure that the people that participate are people that actually watch the stream or watch the um, the replays or anything like this. It's true that it's still one of the issues we have with the fight night system, is that right now we're doing this stream. There are 5 people watching, but there are about 120 players that will get roughly 200, 250 gems in average. And it's not a small amount of gems. It's not insane. It's not crazily big, but it's not nothing either. And if all those players, or even, you know, if we add even a third of those players in the chats, I would be all fine with it. But it's not really the case. We end up with not that many players showing up in here. And when we do the fight nights, I can see how many times you actually contributed, you participated in the fight night, like how many signups. And for example, right now I can tell you in this event we have. I'm trying to see what's the highest number. The highest number I can see is 118 times. So you have someone that joined 118 times the streams, right? If you think about how much gems that corresponds to, it's really a lot. There's not that many games that will give you this. So yeah. And yeah, you're right as well that a lot of people that signed up, a lot of those are alts. And that's also a problem because I tried to reduce the alts in one way or another. I stopped the whole contest thingy because people were just trying to dupe us by putting their alts in it and also trying to reference them as an alternative account for the rewards. So that's one thing. Let me see. Actually, I can tell you where you are. Yeah, you're second. So Aniviper is first and you're second with 117 participations, Batrima. But that's that's what I mean. That it's a tricky. To me, it's the kind of same situation to some extent than the league rewards that we changed. Big backlash from the players that are not getting as much as they used to, even if they know that for the sake of the game, it kind of makes sense. And it's the same here. We know if we change every time I tried to change the fight night, having less, having it less often, having a slightly lower rewards or anything like this, it comes with some backlash. One thing I was thinking about is to lower the rewards for everyone and increase the reward for a lucky few, but they need to be not only participating and not only winners, but they also need to be um, active in one way or another. I know that Crucible used to do that by having the surveys running, but I looked at that as well. And the problem with the surveys is that people were answering the survey, but they were not in the chat because it just takes one guy to share that survey code, that survey link to everyone in one clan, and everyone gets recorded. Yeah, quizzes were getting scammed. That's what I mean. It's like it doesn't matter how you do it, as long as it's something that happens all the time where everyone can participate. It gets problematic. Um, and we don't want at the same time to start to say, oh, those people, they won't be participating this time around. Or, at one point I was doing this where the people that didn't participate the last time, they had more chances to participate in the next, etc. But the problem is you end up with some of those where you have no one watching because the ones that are a bit more talkative in the chat are just not there, not in that fight night, so they don't participate. And so it's a very weird thing. I think just to end that discussion in general, no matter what, this system will evolve. There will be a point where they will be happening less often, and we'll try to make it a bit more of an event, to have way more content to share, to have way less people participating, but have the rewards be better. Um, it's something we'll have to do. You know, maybe we'll do a thing where we kind of filter by ranks or something like this, and say, hey, today it's only people that are that were in this league when they registered, or I don't know. But we'll have to find a way to make things happen more as an event, make people take it more as something that is granted, but more as something that is a nice plus that the game does. Because again, I don't know that many games that will guarantee you, 400 gems every 2 weeks. For participating, yes. For just copy pasting uh, um, uh, a code in the chat, Not that much. Like, think about it this way. If we were to give free rewards in the game, for participating in no matter what, how many rewards in the game give you 400 gems? Technically, participating to the fight nights is granting you more than almost anything you can do in the game, and it happens every season. And that's tricky. I don't have a solution to that. I don't say that we should stop this because I think it's also a nice experience for everyone involved, etc. I'm just saying collectively we'll have to think about what we want to do, how we want to do it, how we want to move forward with that. My goal is that once we get some new features in, especially if we get to have proper fight nights, etc., we can switch the focus of the fight nights to be something where we talk a bit more about what's happening in the game, about the teams that have been performing very good, and those kind of things. And at this point, make the community stream more about the kind of discussions we're having right now, and a bit less about, hey, let's get free gems. But we'll see. I have no idea how to reach that. Um, yeah, we'll need to think about it. It's not going to change anytime soon anyway. Um, but we'll see. Okay, actually, we just have 5 players left now. Something that I was also thinking about is to focus the fight nights a bit less on gems and a bit more on other stuffs. Like, you know, have an event where we're giving out Eternite in bigger chunks, an event where we're giving out, gold or whatever. And the idea was to do this when we have an extravaganza event. At the moment, it was not quite possible because they were a bit sporadic and not always something I knew long enough to be 100% confirmed so that I could do it. But I would love, for example, um, that. Hey, Madruma, yeah, you see, people would not change their army and just sign up and show up. That's pretty much my life, man. No, I mean, a lot of people are changing their armies or at least try to do some things. But I mean, my armies are not that hard to defeat, and you still see a lot of people that have been using the same setup for a super long time. I mean, I'm sure that some of the players that are registered are not even active and have some of their teammates that registered them always, um, and that's the way it is. But yeah, I was saying that one thing I could try and I would like to try is, hey, if there's an Eternite extravaganza this weekend, this fight night is an Eternite fight night, and instead of getting gems, you're getting Eternite that you will use in the Eternite extravaganza. All those kind of things, make it a bit more dynamic and change the things a bit. Yeah, I can understand that, Metromar. Indeed, it's only fun if I mean, in your case, because you're not representing the company, you're doing this solely on your free time. It makes sense that it's only going to be fun if it changes from time to time, right? uh, but it's tough to find a concept that works. um, if I look at other games that I worked on or that I do work on that do these kind of things, they usually do it in a different way. Like they will say, okay, um, here's a contest. Like that's something we could do actually. Here's a contest in the Discord and elsewhere. You have to do something, and if you do that, no matter what that is, it's, hey, tell us, come up with an idea for a new unit, do something that needs you to interact with us and the rest of the community, then you can enter the next fight night. Something where you need to interact, you need to do something, and we make the fight night itself enough of an event that people show up and that they have a reason to watch the replays because there are nice stuffs in it, and where basically I have the time to do something way better, not only in terms of showing better stuffs, but also even the armies that we use have better armies. And I think we're done. Yeah, we are done. Yeah, I was saying the same thing. Yeah, we are done. But that's one thing we could think about. Maybe I'll try this. Like at one point. I'm not saying it's not going to be in the coming weeks or months, most likely. But at one point, if I see that I need to um, change the pace because I simply don't have the time to do the stream as often, um, that could be one thing. Say, hey, we'll have less often the streams, but given that you will need to do something first to get into the fight night, you will actually get even a bit more than you currently have in the stream. And yeah, that could be one thing we could consider. Also, just to be clear, because I know some people can be confused about that, um, Crucibles was able to do the streams weekly, but that's mostly because we don't have the same function. He was solely focusing on the CM and CS side. So, you know, for the game, he was doing that extremely well. The good and the bad thing is that I have more responsibilities within the game than he had, which is good because sometimes I can influence a bit more what happens. But it's also bad because that means I have less time for this. And also, I do work on other games as well. I'm not 100% of the time dedicated to Battle Legion. So there's a point at which that's why it gets a bit harder for me to do the stream. That's not laziness. I mean, maybe a bit, but it's not like I am expected to do those streams twice a week or whatever. It's a situation where my time is usually used for other stuffs, and I need to make sure I get enough time for the streams, and that's why it's a bit of a different things. That's what I mean. Okay, guys. So now that we're done, I'm gonna grant everyone the rewards. There we go. Everyone should have received them by now. And yeah, thank you, Matrama. Thank you to the few ones that were watching today, and of course to all the ones of you that will watch the replay. As always, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I hope that we covered a lot of topics. I hope it was interesting for everyone. We'll see each other in 2 weeks' time, and with that, uh, just have a wonderful evening. And yeah, bye.